All right, y'all. First and foremost, give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the sons of Mashiach, who some call Yahweh Shai, Yeshua, Yehoshua, but we mostly know as Jesus Christ. All right. I want to do something briefly on the Day of Atonement. I had a couple of people, well, not a couple of people. My one of my brothers reached out and you know, since he's trying to get his rib and they trying to get it in order and they trying to get to these feast days and they need to understand the why, the what, the when, the where. And I just gave a brief synopsis of them, what they can go over. You know, basically I wanted them to go over it together, read it together amongst each other, and understand these things. We'll do that here. Also, I'll give you some of the stuff that I shared with them. Just brief, not gonna be detailed. We could go deep. I have a lesson up. If you hit the live tab and you go to search, type in Day of Atonement, I'm sure a video will come up with the Day of Atonement in the slides and all of that. But to keep it brief, to try to keep it under 30 minutes, all right, we're gonna read all of Leviticus 16. I told you. All of Leviticus 16. So let's start here. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron, when they offered before the Lord and died. And the Lord said unto Moses, speak unto Aaron thy brother, that he come not at all times into the holy place within the veil before the mercy seat, which is upon the ark, that he die not. For I will appear in the cloud upon the mercy seat. Who will appear? Who's appearing here? Who's appearing here? I will appear. All right, for the mercy seat. No, brothers. No, who's that? IUIC said something about, oh, well, Christ was that Old Testament God. Is that Christ or is that the Father? Is that Yahweh? Is that El Shaddai? Is that the Almighty? Verse 3. Thus shall Aaron come into the holy place with a young bullock for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He shall put on the holy linen coat, and he shall have the linen breeches upon his flesh. He shall be girded with the linen breeches and with the linen mitre or matire. Some brothers say matire, mitre. Shall he be attired? These are holy garments. Therefore shall he wash his flesh in water and so put them on. So he gonna have to bathe before he come in for this holy place. He's gonna have to bathe. He's gonna have to wash himself. All right. And he's gonna have to put on, after he's done washing himself, he's gonna have to put on this holy garment. All linen. Fully linen. And this is for a reason. All right, you understand the attributes of the Ark of the Covenant and how those materials work. Verse 1, I already told you 2 jokers just died in there. See, one joker died when they was messing with that Ark of the Covenant. That thing touched that water. Jokers got electrocuted. Jokers died. Certain properties that hold that linen is good to wear around these kind of properties. You know, this thing made of gold, and then you got the wooden fence so you can hold it. Then you got the 2 cherubim that's pointed at each other, like, you know, and that then you have that mercy seat and you got something in front of there with clouds and electricity, and then you got the incense that are burning. And if you go in there with wool, you go in there wearing wool, something that draws electricity, you're gonna die. All right, and that's just a little jewel for you. You go in there and you research that. Research some of the properties of the covenant and how do these things conduct electricity. Why is the Lord telling him to wear linen? He has to wear all linen. Look up the attributes of linen. You know, what does linen do for the skin? What is the benefits of wearing linen? But let's continue. Verse 5, and he shall take the congregation of the children of Israel 2 kids of goats for a sin offering and 1 ram for a burnt offering. And Aaron shall offer his bullock for the sin offering, which is for himself, and make an atonement for himself and for his house. All right, very key point there. Okay. Aaron had to wash himself and put on a holy garment. Okay. How are we washed in the New Testament? How are we washed under Christ? How do we put on a new garment? Who's going behind the veil with Christ? But we're not dealing with it. We're dealing with, before that, the foreshadow of that. We're dealing with the type, but not the real thing. And so Aaron, being a high priest here, he has to offer a bullock for himself. Why? Because he's wicked. But be like, man, he wicked. What do you mean he wicked? Well, I'm just saying he's in sin, brother. Okay? So he has to offer a sin offering for himself and for his house before he can offer a sin for you. But we have a high priest in the Hamashiach Yahushua. We have a high priest in Jesus Christ that's without sin. That's without sin. He don't have to do a sin offering for himself. All right. That offered a better. Let's keep going. And Aaron shall offer a bullock of a sin offering, which is for himself, and make an atonement for himself and his house. And he shall take the 2 goats and present them before the Lord at the door at the tabernacle of the congregation. And Aaron shall cast lots upon the 2 goats, one lot for the Lord and the other lot for the scapegoat. The lots are like almost like shooting dice. All right, he's gonna cast these lots out there and see which one the Lord chooses by casting the lots. There's another example of the lots with Jonah. Was that? Yeah, Jonah. And I think it was falling on Jonah, if I ain't mistaken. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Look into the lots. Brothers, still should we still be casting lots? Are the lots of significance today? And in some situations, we may need lots. Some situations that are undecidable, well, let's let the Lord decide. Let's cast the lots. And offer him for a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot fell to be the scapegoat shall be presented alive before the Lord to make an atonement with him, and let him that go for a scapegoat into the wilderness. And let him go for a scapegoat into the wilderness. So there's a goat, there's 2 goats, whatever the lot that falls on, that's the goat for the Lord. All right, you're going to keep that goat alive before the Lord, and he's going to make an atonement, and then you're going to let him go out there in the wilderness. Verse 11. And Aaron shall bring the bullock for the sin offering, which is for himself, and shall make an atonement for himself and for his house, and shall kill the bullock for a sin offering, which is for himself. And he shall take a censer full of burning coals of fire from off the altar before the Lord, and his hands full of sweet incense beaten small, and bring it within the veil. And he shall put the incense upon the fire before the Lord, that the cloud of the incense may cover the mercy seat that is upon the testimony, that he not die. Bring that in there, that cloud of that incense may cover, for you see something that might kill you. And he shall take the blood of the bullock and sprinkle it with his finger upon the mercy seat eastward, and before the mercy seat shall he sprinkle the blood with his finger 7 times. Then shall he kill the goat, and it ain't just saying 7 times for a reason. You know, brothers get into the numerology. I'm not one of those brothers, but I've seen certain lessons on it. My brother Eleazar did a lesson a while back on the significance of these numbers, and some of our brothers and sisters should look into. Then shall he kill the goat, the 40, the 3, the 7, the 9. Then shall he kill the goat of the sin offering, that is for the people, and bring the blood within the veil, and do with the blood as he did with the blood of the bullock, and sprinkle it upon the mercy seat and before the mercy seat. And he shall make an atonement for the holy place because of the uncleanness of the Israel. All right. He has to make an atonement for the holy place. He got to make a sacrifice for the holy place because of the uncleanness of the children of Israel and because of the transgressions and all their sins. And so shall he do for the tabernacle of the congregation that remaineth among them in the midst of their uncleanness. All right. And there shall be no man in the tabernacle of the congregation when he goeth in to make an atonement in the holy place, until he come out and have made an atonement for himself and for his household and for all the congregation of Israel. Don't nobody come near it till he make that sacrifice for himself, his family, and all the Israel. Don't come over there. You unclean. And he shall go out unto the altar that is before the Lord and make an atonement for it. And shall take of the blood of the bullock and the blood of the goat and put it upon the horns of the altar round about. And he shall sprinkle the blood upon it. And when y'all reading this, and I should have put this up here myself, you know, she have a picture of the Ark of the Covenant and the mercy seat. You should have some kind of visual there. All right, so you can see, you can visualize what you're looking at. You know, y'all will not do that in the edit. And when he have made an end of reconciling the holy place, all right, once he done made an end of getting his holy place together, you know, reconciling it back to the Lord, making that atonement for it, sacrifice, sprinkling the blood on it for it. In the tabernacle of the congregation in the altar, he shall bring the live goat. Now it's time for the live goat. And when he have made an end of the reconciling, Shalakia, verse 21, and Aaron shall lay both his hands upon the head of the live goat. You seen this laying of the hands on people that seen a certain offense. I forget where it was at, but they had to. All those who seen the offense, they had to stone these people, and they laid hands on them. Matter of fact, I think it's when they broke the Sabbath. Initially, when they broke the Sabbath, they stoned them, and I think they burned them also. Either that, or it was the time when in Acts, when the brother, you know, sold his stuff and then tried to keep it and hide it from the Lord. But now I think, as far as the laying the hands part, those that seen him do that and all that seen the offense, they had to lay their hands on him, you know, before he got stoned, to show that guilt. All right, to show to be that witness and have that guilt, like, yeah, he did it. All right, he did this, he did that, he broke the Sabbath, he got the sticks, and he ended up stoning him. And this is what Aaron is doing. Aaron is laying hands on this goat, and he's giving all the offenses of Israel. Verse 21, and Aaron shall lay both his hands upon the head of the live goat and confess over him all the iniquities of the children of Israel and all their transgressions and all their sins, putting them upon the head of the goat, and shall send him away by the hand of a fit man into the wilderness. So somebody that is physically fit enough to run this goat. See, once he put these sins in them, they got to take the goat and run them all the way, run them as far as you can into the wilderness, that he never returns. And then historically, I read somewhere that the goats were returning, which was like symbolically, yeah, the sins were returning. And eventually what they start doing is taking the goats and taking them off a cliff and killing them. They'll take the goats into the wilderness, they'll kill it, because to keep it from coming back. But that could have been something there spiritually because of our sins. That goat was coming back. It was making it back into the camp, showing you that this thing is just a type and a foreshadow, and it just ain't gonna make us right. It ain't gonna make us right. It wasn't there to make us right. Them sins always came back, and Aaron had to do this every year. Verse 22, and the goat shall bear upon him all the iniquities also, Shalakia, and he shall bear all the iniquities unto a land not inhabited, and he shall let go the goat in the wilderness. And Aaron shall come into the tabernacle of the congregation and shall put off the linen garments, which he put on when he went into the holy place, and leave them there. All right. Can't leave out of there without them with them holy garments on. Leave them there. You ever had to go, you grew up your parents that bought you these nice shoes, and they like, man, don't you wear these shoes out the house? Don't you wear these shoes? Or they bought you some church shoes, or don't you wear them shoes outside? Or you bought you, matter of fact, just them nice school shoes. Bought you some J's and bought you some nice Nikes, and like, man, don't you wear them shoes outside to play? Don't wear them shoes outside. Now, why is your mother telling you that? Why is your father telling you not to wear the shoes outside? Because they're going to get filthy. You're going to destroy them. They're going to get dirty. All right, so those holy garments had to stay there in that holy place, because if he went past that veil and he tried to show these jokers and mingle with these jokers, trying to, show how fly and how pure he looks with the white linen on, he would have got filthy. He would have became unclean. There was a time earlier in my walk, man, I love wearing all white. I used to wear all white, man. I used to have white jeans, white linen. Like, yeah, man, it's what we both do. Man, it's so hard trying to keep that stuff clean. Man, I used to put my seatbelt on. I used to have to wipe down my seatbelt, because you mess around, you had that seatbelt on, had dirt on the seatbelt. My wallet, my keys. I put my keys in my pocket. I had them white jeans on. I put the keys in my pocket. Man, the keys so dirty. You didn't realize how dirty your keys are. Just had to wash my keys. All right, but this is spiritual. You have spiritually become unclean. You can't be around these folks wearing this holy garment. All right, keep it in here. Keep it in here. Take it off. And before he had to put them on, we seen he had the bays. Verse, where we at? Verse 24. And he shall wash his flesh with water in the holy place, and put on his garments, and come forth, and offer his burnt offering for the people, and make an atonement for himself and for the people. And the fat, and see, this him putting back on his garments. All right, he taking off his garments. Once he take off them holy garments, he gonna have to wash himself. And this is what all the diverse washing, the fence laws come in later, after Babylon, during the time of Ezra. A lot of these fence laws start being implemented, these traditions of men, of these diverse washings. All right. And Pharisees, like, even look at that word, the meaning of Pharisee. They didn't want nobody touching them. They wanted to be clean. They wanted to stay clean. They wanted to be seen, etc. We'll get it. Verse 25, and the fat of the sin offering shall be burned upon the altar. And he that let go the goat, and he that let go the goat for the scapegoat shall wash his clothes and bathe his flesh in water after he come into the camp. All right, so that joker who ran with that goat, he got to come back and shower up. He got to come back and cleanse himself. All right, so this way again, it was the diverse washings. You came out there and you was dealing with all these people. Christ was out there with prostitutes and other. Man, you better wash your hand before you touch that bread. What you doing? What you doing, man? You been casting out demons, doing all kinds of craziness, man. Wash your hands. No, if not, it's not what goes in a man. Verse 27, y'all. And a bullock for the sin offering, and the goat for the sin offering, whose blood was brought in to make an atonement in the holy place, shall one carry forth without the camp, and they shall burn in the fire their skins and their flesh and their dung. All right, y'all burning dung? And he that burneth them shall wash his clothes and bathe his flesh in water, and afterward he shall come into the camp. The annual atonement All right, verse 29, and it shall be a statute forever unto you that in the 7th month, the 10th day of the month, ye shall afflict your souls, and do not work at all, whether it be one of your own country or a stranger that sojourneth among you. Nobody gotta work. There are strangers sojourning among you. All right, those within the land of Israel should not be doing any work. For on the day shall the priest make an atonement for you to cleanse you. To do what? To cleanse you, that you may be clean from all the sins before the Lord. It shall be a Sabbath of rest for you, and you shall afflict your souls by a statute forever. And the priest whom he shall anoint, and whom he shall consecrate to minister in the priest's office, in his father's stead, shall make an atonement, and shall put on the linen clothes, even thy holy garments. And the priests whom he shall anoint, and the priest whom he shall anoint. You don't get to pick. He gonna pick the priest. Shall consecrate to the minister's office in his father's stead, shall make an atonement, and shall put on the linen clothes, even the holy garments. And he shall make an atonement for the holy sanctuary, and he shall make an atonement for the tabernacle of the congregation and for the altar. All right, everything got to be cleansed. We need a sacrifice for the altar, a sacrifice for the holy place, a sacrifice for the congregation. And he shall make an atonement for the priests and all the people of the congregation. But and this shall be an everlasting statute unto you, to make an atonement for the children of Israel for all their sins once a year. And he did as the Lord commanded Moses. All right, this was a commandment. So we had to read all of that. All right, to understand what this thing is, as far as the Day of Atonement. Now we got a new priest now. All right. We got a new priest. Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. My bad, y'all. I unplugged the mic. Trying to get to the computer. We got a new high priest. Hebrews 4:14. Seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed into the heavens, Jesus the Son of God, let us hold fast our profession. For we have not an high priest that which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted at like as we were, but was in all points tempted like as we are. You see that? As we are yet. We see it in italic. Without sin. Let us thereby come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. It's a difference between Aaron and the high priest that we have now in Jesus, the Son of God. Okay, the high priest, Yahushua. All right, he had Aaron that couldn't be touched. He had to stay back there. He couldn't be around us. He was wearing the linen garment. He had to make an atonement for himself. He was tempted as we were tempted, and he failed like we failed. So he needed a sacrifice like he did. But Christ didn't need no sacrifice. He had those same temptations, but he was without sin. So let us boldly come into the throne of grace. All right, we finna get on up out of here, y'all. Hebrews 9. Hebrews 9, we're gonna read a little bit, 6 through 28. 6 through 28, and then we gone. I think that's it. Yep, that's it. Yeah. Verse 6, it says, and again, like I said, I have a more detailed class PowerPoint show. Verse 6. Okay, Hebrews chapter 9, verse 6 says, now when these things were thus ordained, the priests went always into the first tabernacle. So we were just reading, accomplishing the service of God. But in the second, went the high priest alone once a year, not without blood, but into the second went the Shalaki. I said, God got all juiced up. But into the second went the high priest alone once every year, not without blood, which he offered for himself and for the heirs of the people. The Holy Ghost then signifying that the way into the holiest of all was not yet made manifest, while as the first tabernacle was yet. Listen, he doing that in the Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost is signifying that the way into the holiest of all. You got a holy of holies, but then you got a holiest of all. That wasn't revealed yet. It wasn't revealed yet, and he wasn't gonna get there with no sacrifices of bullocks and goats. He could get into the holy of holies with that white linen garment, but in that blood of a bullock, in the censers and the smoke, but he can't get into the holiest of all. While the first tabernacle was yet standing. Verse 9 says, which was a figure for the time then present. It's a type, it's a foreshadow, it's a figure of what was to come, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did the sacrifice perfect. That's why I don't like the book of Hebrews. It couldn't make you perfect. Why are you going back to that? Why are you running back to that when it couldn't make you perfect? As pertaining to the conscience, which stood only in meat and drinks, in divers washings and cardinal ordinances. What stood in meat and drinks and divers washings and cardinal ordinances? Imposed on them until the time of Reformation. See, this is where we at. See, this is where I feel we at. We in the time of Reformation for the one West Israelites. It's a time that thing stood a certain way, but this is the time for reform. It's a time for reform. All right. They had certain things, meat, drinks, divers washings, and cardinal order that was imposed on them till the time of Reformation. Are we in the time of that Reformation? Is Christ our high priest? Those were foreshadows. Those were cardinal ordinances. They could never make you perfect. Verse 11, but Christ being come and high priest of good things to come by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands. Okay, what Solomon built. Care what Solomon built, man. That is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. For if the blood of bulls and goats and the ashes of a heifer sprinkling the unclean sanctify to the purifying of the flesh, if that could purify you, if that was purifying you back then, now we in a time of reformation. What my brother Shafar say, in the new fresh. How much more shall the blood of Christ, who through the eternal spirit offer himself without spot to God, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living God. You saying you saying the Lord ain't purging? You saying Christ's blood ain't purging your conscience of dead works? Is this something we're waiting on? How we get here? How I get here? How I get off the weed? How I get away from the fornication? How did I start being obedient to his word? How in the world did I get on YouTube reading the Bible? What, man, it's insane. It's some jokers you can tell, man. You remember Ant, man? You remember, oh, man, you remember Mr. Sir? You remember Sir? Man, that joker preaching. But they'll fall over laughing at you. You're preaching. Reading the Bible. How I get here? Blood purging the conscience from the dead works. It wasn't me. If it was me, I'd still be out there. I'd be blowing up them DMs, man. Verse 13, for if the blood of bulls goes to ashes of heifer, sprinkling the unclean, sanctified to the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Christ, through the eternal Spirit, offered himself without spot of God, purge the conscience from dead works to serve the living God? And for this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament. Why? For this cause. This is the reason. He's the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament. Y'all still want to be there? Y'all want to be under the first testament? You don't want to be redeemed by this New Testament? That which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. Let me read it again. And for this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. For where a testament is, there must also necessity be the death of the testator. For a testament is of force after men are dead. Once Christ died, the testament is in force. Otherwise, it is of no strength at all while the testator liveth. Whereupon neither the first testament was dedicated without blood. The first testament was dedicated with the sprinkling. I think that's Exodus chapter 24. We went over that. All right, it was dedicated with the sprinkling of blood. This one here was dedicated. The inauguration happened during Christ on the cross, and that blood, Israel said, let that blood be upon us. And they ain't mean it that way, but somehow it come out that way. You need that blood upon us. In their way, they was just like, yeah, we guilty of doing that. Yeah. It's on us. We did it. We made the choice. But that it's also in the Psalms. I am but a worm. I am a worm. I was talking about Psalms 23, something like that. I am a worm. Somebody look that up. I am a worm, and then look up that word worm. It's the crimson worm. It's a worm. It's a worm that they called it the crimson worm because once the worm attaches to a tree and has its babies. Once the babies are born, they end up eating the mother. The mother dies, they end up eating the mother or something like that. But the blood comes down. The blood, the crimson worm comes down and pours onto the children. And you can look up that. Let's look up that Bible verse. Google that Bible verse, I am a worm, and then find the Strong's there. It's a crimson worm, and it'll give you that whole story there about that particular worm. All right, and that's not the word for worm. It's a specific worm used there in the Hebrew to pretty much give that story about that worm. And it's how they use red. It's how they dyed their clothes red with that worm. Verse 19. For when Moses had spoken every precept, what is a precept? Was it a correlating verse or was it law? Was it a statute? Every precept to all the people according to the law. He took the blood of the calves and the goats and the water and the scarlet wool and the hyssop and the sprinkled both the book and all the people, saying, this is the blood of the testament which God have enjoined you unto you. Once he sprinkled the blood, he told them, this is the blood that God have enjoined you. Moreover, he sprinkled both the blood, both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry. And almost all things are by the law purged with blood, and without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. All things are purged with blood. You want it to be purged without Christ. All my Old Testament brothers. Oh man, I can just turn to the east and man, the Lord ain't there. You turn to the east because there was a tabernacle there you could face and you can pray, and the Lord was inside of that tabernacle, and you could pray to the Lord facing east. There ain't no tabernacle there no more. There ain't no mercy seat there. There ain't no priesthood there. You need blood to purge you. Repent, man. Please. Please, you only got half the story. You just got the type. You got the foreshadow. You got what points you to Christ. Pray this thing. Pray you understand what I'm saying. Verse 21, moreover, sprinkle of the blood, both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry. Y'all ain't sprinkling no blood. Talking about all I got to do is do that. You ain't sprinkling no blood. Almost all things by the law purged with blood, and without the shedding of blood is no remission. Verse 23, it was therefore necessary that the patterns of things in the heavens should be purified with these, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. Okay, in the heaven where the Lord at, you know, you draw the pattern of what you were seeing in the heavens. But up there in the holiest of all, got to have a better sacrifice. And that sacrifice will give you the promise of an eternal inheritance. Verse 24, for Christ is not entered into the holy places made with hands, which are figures of the truth. It's figures. You putting your hope in types, in figures, in foreshadows. Like putting your hope in a Barbie playhouse. Talking about you living in a mansion. You got a tree house in the back. Talking about you living in, that's how you done built some 10 bedroom, 15 bath mansion with the endless swimming pool. No, man. That's a type, that's a model. It's like putting your hope in, the city, well, this is the plans for the city, and they build like the little mini model type of the city. You putting your dreams and your hope, you putting your salvation on a type, in a figure, in a model of what's to come. Verse 24 again. For Christ is not entered into the holy places made with hands, which are figures of the truth, but into heaven, now to appear in the presence of God for us. Not around no smoke in no mercy seat, but with the light, with some linen. Come on now. Now, nor yet that he should offer himself often, as the high priest entered into the holy place every year with blood of others. He ain't got to keep doing it every year. He ain't got to keep going in there. under this priesthood. We ain't gotta, hey man, we just let's gather for the Day of Atonement and let's see the priest go in there and let's cross our fingers that he make it out alive and that the scapegoat, who gonna run the scapegoat? Who gonna be willing? Well, we did that for the last lesson. Who gonna be willing to take that scapegoat out there? You got to worry about that no more. Nobody's talking about they, man, let me run the scapegoat out to the wilderness. You know, we just like, hey man, let's just fast, let's afflict our souls. Let's talk about the foreshadow. Let's learn about the foreshadow so that we can embrace the new. So that we can be grateful for the new. So that we can give thanks and glory to the new. Verse 25 again, nor yet that he should offer himself often as a high priest entered into the holy place every year with the blood of others. For then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world. He would have been dying since the earth started, because that sacrificial lamb been here in the beginning. Through him all things were created. Imagine how many times he had to die in heaven for the sins of the world. But now once in the end of the world hath he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. This is what I'm saying, that we've been in the end of the world since his death. All right, we've been in the end times since his death. My brother be saying it all the time. We've been in the end times since his death. It says, but now once in the end of the world. That's what the writer feels. He feels this is the end of the world. And as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this judgment, so Christ was offered to bear the sins of many. And unto them that look for him shall he appear the second time without sin until salvation. All right, we'll just read this verse 1. For the law having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of the things, can never, with those sacrifices that are offered year by year, continually make the comers thereunto perfect. Okay. And y'all can continue reading on. But I pray this thing was edifying. We almost at an hour. Pray this thing was edifying. Y'all be blessed. Let's see y'all on the next one. Appreciate all the likes, shares, and the comments, and all the encouraging words, Israel. Shalom. Shalom.